My name is Bea Pennington and I am a health coach here at Melbourne Functional Medicine. I'm also really lucky to be part of the management team and head the coaching team here. Because I do have those two roles, there are really two different ways that I show up at the clinic. So one of them primarily is the coaching role. My role here is to support our patients, to enable them to make change while they're working with us, and also support the practitioners to be able to effect change with their patients. And the other role is really in that leadership team, so thinking about business development and progress and working on exciting projects. So working as a health coach, I think of as a bit of a beautiful accident. So I wasn't really thinking about specifically health coaching, but was doing a lot of introspection about what my passions were. And it was very clear that there was an intersection between nurturing and supporting people. And I actually started by studying clinical nutrition when my daughter was just a little baby and I needed to study from home. And so that really opened the gates for me, and I realized that health and solutions to health problems were something that very much lit me up. The types of challenges that I really love supporting people with primarily are to do with mindset. So what we think, what we believe, and how we accidentally get in our own way. We often don't realize that we get in our way. And so helping somebody understand that can be very, very, very impactful and very powerful for change. I love listening to try and understand what people's real pain points are, because I think people show up and they think that their pain points are their symptoms. And really often it's actually much deeper than that. And sometimes, not always, but often that there's a belief system or a behavior that sits underneath it that's an outcome of something else. So it's kind of like digging for gold. You know that there's some really powerful stuff in there, and seldom does it sit on the surface. So for me, when I show up with patients, I love creating a space and asking the types of questions where they actually can start unraveling what their story might be. And ultimately, I think that ends up being more helpful for the whole rest of your life, because once you sort of understand yourself and the way that you think and behave, you've really become empowered to make incredible decisions for the future version of yourself. I'm going to give you two facts. One is that it even exists, particularly in the health space. It's quite uncommon to have that teamwork and that collaborative model where you get the skill set of a practitioner and also the support of a coach. So I think the fact that it exists is one thing. I think the other thing is that we're not telling people what to do. Often when we're thinking of coaching, we might be thinking more like performance coaching or sport coaching. And often people turn up thinking this person's just going to give me a whole lot of instructions and hold me accountable. And the reality actually looks really different to that. The reality is there's lots of space. There's an incredible lack of judgment and permission to just kind of show up. And we kind of want to help people walk through it at a pace that's comfortable for them. So the idea that a coach is going to force you to do something and then like crack the whip and hold you accountable, I think is a myth. I think in life, very seldom do you have an opportunity to sit with someone who's just listening to you. It's probably one of the greatest gifts a coach can give somebody. And having that chance to sit with somebody who's both listening and asking questions to help you, I think really is one of the best gifts that we can give our patients. The thing that I love the most about working at MFM is, without exception, the team and the culture. I think we have intentionally brought people into the clinic who are a certain type of person, and it means that there's this really gorgeous cohesion and everyone is kind, like everyone really leads with kindness, and I love that so much. The other part for me is that I'm blown away every single day by the privilege of people letting me into their world. And sometimes I'll get off a call and I'll sit and I'll think about the quality of information or the depth of information that someone has shared with me, and it truly feels like a privilege. think I'm inspired all the time for lots of different reasons. People coming from really different areas and different situations. But I think the quality that I really admire is bravery. And when I think of bravery, there is a standout patient for me who came in a few years ago now. And there were a couple of things that she really took on with such dedication and perseverance. And she was really honest in how she was showing up. So through our coaching calls, one of the things that she learned about herself was that she has a really strong family. The story of her family and what she grew up hearing was that your success and how you look externally is the thing that matters most. And what ended up happening because of that is she put like an incredible amount of pressure on herself to succeed at everything. And so she was pushing herself in ways that her body wasn't able to hold. It just was too much for her. She was overtraining her body, like her body was screaming at her to stop. And because that extrinsic validation piece had been sort of brought in from the very beginning of her life, it was only on questioning it that she started to really recognize how it practically played out, not just in her health, but also in her life. So she bravely stood in that spot of investigating and made some very intentional shifts in the way she spoke to herself and the permission that she gave herself to support her body in other ways. But the other thing she did that I also thought was really brave was she decided that she wanted to stop drinking alcohol. And she came from a family where alcohol was very much part of the connective tissue. It was part of how they got together. And so we would talk, at this stage we were talking every week, and we would talk through the language when she got to her family home. But the parents didn't understand. And so there was this, not just judgment from a lack of understanding, but there was this constant sense of pressure that was being applied to her. But she was so clear about what she wanted to achieve that she just faced it. And we talked a lot about healthy boundaries and the positive types of language that she can use to communicate what her desires were, but in a non-confronting and non-combative way. And so she stopped drinking alcohol. She completely remodeled what was important to her from an output perspective. And so I think, again, when I think of her, it's bravery. She just was willing to sit in uncomfortable conversations, dig in and uncover what was sitting underneath it, and then just make these changes. And ultimately, she just flew. She's just doing amazingly well. So I am a huge fan of authentic connection. I really want to take the time to not force a relationship with a patient, but let it go at its own pace and unravel in a very natural, again, authentic way. I always encourage people to come and lean into it. If you've never had coaching before, if the whole concept is new or scary for you, I get it. That's fine. New things are confronting and challenging. But I would say the sooner you come in and open up and lean into that process, I think the sooner you can expect to be making really powerful, significant changes. I ultimately want to be able to help people learn about their own bodies, because I do think that knowing your own body, how it works, what it loves and what it doesn't, for me is like an ultimate superpower. And so if I'm on your team, that's what I'm shooting for, to upskill you so that you have the very best skills, you have the best understanding of yourself, so that for the whole rest of your life, you've got this relationship with yourself that is based on so much insight, it kind of sets you up for future success. If I could change one thing about healthcare, hands down, would be time. I think time is the thing that is the ultimate gift to give somebody, that and listening. And so if the healthcare model in general offered people more time and people were able to ask more questions and better questions, and you could spend time really understanding the patient, I think it would shift the whole way that healthcare looks. So time for me is one of the greatest gifts that you can give someone.